Before we go any further, I want you to really stop and ask yourself one thing. What would your life look like if you showed up every single day? Not just when it was easy, not just when you felt like it, but every single day, no matter what. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for motivation to magically appear. But the truth is, motivation is fleeting, and feelings lie to us all the time. What truly shapes our lives, what separates those who only dream from those who actually build, is consistency. Build. And consistency isn't something you're born with. It's something you force yourself to create. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share exactly why forcing yourself to be consistent can transform your life from average to unstoppable. And I promise you this, if you truly listen, if you let these words sink in, you will walk away not just inspired, but ready to act, even on the days you least want to. So stay with me until the end, because sometimes it's the words you hear in these moments that can completely rewrite your story. Most of us spend so much of our lives chasing that perfect moment when everything feels right, when the stars align and motivation burns so brightly inside us that we can't help but act. We wait for the morning we wake up and just feel ready, feel inspired, feel driven. But if there's one truth that separates those who actually build something meaningful from those who only imagine it, it's this. Consistency isn't a feeling, it's a choice. It's a decision you make over and over again, especially when your feelings tell you to stop. Think about it. How many times have you promised yourself that tomorrow would be different? That you'd start fresh on Monday, or next month, or as soon as things slowed down? We create these imaginary starting lines, waiting for that surge of motivation that feels like the universe itself is cheering us on. And when that feeling fades, as it always does, so do our efforts. That's the cycle so many of us live in, caught between hope and disappointment, effort and retreat. The reality is that feelings are unreliable. They change with the weather, with the mood you wake up in, with what someone said to you that morning. But a choice, a real deliberate choice, that's something you can build your life on. Consistency starts not when you feel inspired, but when you decide, in your quiet moments, that what you want matters enough to keep going, no matter what mood greets you each morning. Imagine if the moments you felt tired, bored, or discouraged stopped being your reasons to pause and instead became your reminders to push forward. Because the truth is, every single person who's achieved anything worthwhile has felt that same fatigue, that same boredom, that same doubt. The difference wasn't that they were braver, or stronger, or more naturally motivated. The difference was that they had learned to treat consistency as a non-negotiable choice, not something that depended on fleeting emotion. Let's be honest, forcing yourself to be consistent sounds harsh at first. It almost feels unfair. Like, why should we have to force ourselves to do something we say we love? But the love you have for your vision, for your future, isn't measured by how you feel when it's easy. It's measured by how you act when it's not. It's in the early mornings when the bed feels too warm to leave, in the late nights when the couch feels too comfortable to get up from, in those moments of doubt when quitting would be easier than trying again. Those are the moments that define us far more than the days when we wake up ready to conquer the world. And what you'll discover is that the more you choose to act, to show up, to put in the work, the less you'll rely on motivation at all. You'll see that your identity starts to change. You stop being someone who sometimes does the work and start becoming someone who always does. That shift doesn't happen overnight. It happens one choice at a time, often in silence, without applause, without instant results. But over weeks, months, and years, it creates something powerful and almost unshakable. Discipline. Discipline. There's something incredibly liberating in this too. When you stop waiting for motivation, you take back control. You're no longer at the mercy of your emotions or your circumstances. You decide what matters. You decide what gets done. You discover a strength in yourself that doesn't fade when life gets harder. Because you've trained it through repetition, through action, through choosing again and again to honor your goals, even on the days you least feel like it. Some might call it forcing yourself, and yes, at times it feels that way. But what you're really doing is proving to yourself that your future matters more than your comfort right now. That your commitment isn't a fragile thing that breaks every time the mood changes, but something stronger, built on the bedrock of choice. And with each choice, your confidence grows, because nothing builds self-trust like keeping promises to yourself, quietly, when no one else is watching. It's not glamorous. It's not always fun, but it is the most honest form of self-respect. To show up for yourself again and again until it stops feeling forced and starts feeling like who you truly are. And when you reach that point, when consistency becomes your default rather than your struggle, that's when everything changes. Not because the road suddenly gets easier, but because you've become stronger, steadier, and far more capable of walking it. And so when I say that consistency isn't a feeling but a choice, I mean that your power lies in deciding every day that your vision deserves your action, not just your intention. Because at the end of the day, it's the choices you make when you don't feel like it that shape the person you become. And that's how you build a life that lasts longer than motivation ever could. If you truly want to force yourself to be consistent, you can't rely on willpower alone, because willpower is like a battery. It drains faster than we think, especially on days when stress piles up, when things don't go as planned, or when life feels overwhelming. This is why the real secret isn't just deciding to be consistent once. It's designing your life so that consistency can survive even your worst days. Because let's face it, we all have days when energy is low, when doubt creeps in, and when quitting sounds easier than continuing. The difference between those who keep going and those who give up isn't that they never feel weak. It's that they've built habits strong enough to carry them through those weak moments. It starts with understanding that habits aren't built for your best days. They're built precisely for the days you feel uninspired. Think about the small actions you repeat so often they become automatic. Brushing your teeth, locking the door, turning off the lights before bed. You don't argue with yourself about whether to do them. You just do them. You just do them. That's the power you want to bring into your biggest goals. Turning them from something that requires constant mental effort into something that fits so naturally into your routine that skipping them feels wrong. And it doesn't have to start big. In fact, it shouldn't. Most people set themselves up for failure by creating routines so demanding that they can only keep up on their best days. But real consistency grows from habits so simple you can keep them even when you're exhausted. Maybe it's writing one paragraph instead of a whole page, reading 5 minutes instead of 50, doing a short workout instead of skipping entirely. What matters isn't how impressive each action looks. It's that you never break the chain. Because every day you keep your promise to yourself. No matter how small, you reinforce the identity of someone who shows up. And from there, you build upward. Once the habit feels as natural as breathing, you add to it, layer by layer, until the routine itself becomes the support system that keeps you moving forward. You don't rely on your mood. You rely on your systems. And if those systems are built thoughtfully, they can hold you up even on your most difficult days. It's about making your environment work for you too. Surround yourself with reminders of why you started. Notes on your mirror, alarms on your phone, a vision board where you can see it daily. Structure your space so that the path to action is easy and the path to distraction is harder. If your phone tempts you, leave it in another room. If working out feels daunting, lay out your clothes the night before. The less friction between you and your habit, the more likely you'll follow through, especially when your mind wants to pull you away. And beyond your environment, build your time around your priorities. Time blocking is one of the simplest yet most powerful tools you can use. When you see your commitment written into your calendar not as a wish but as an appointment, it stops being optional. And if something truly urgent disrupts that plan, reschedule immediately rather than cancel completely. The act of rescheduling keeps your intention alive, canceling kills it. Then there's the power of micro goals. Big dreams are exciting but can also feel overwhelming. Break them down into daily actions that feel manageable. If your goal is to write a book, your micro goal might be writing 200 words a day. If your goal is to get healthier, your micro goal might be a 10-minute walk after lunch. These micro goals keep your progress steady and protect you from the all-or-nothing mindset that ruins so many good intentions. You also need to anticipate the days when motivation drops to zero. Instead of being surprised by those days, expect them and plan what your minimum action will be. This way, even when you're tired, upset, or uninspired, you still do something, and something, however small, keeps your momentum alive. Momentum isn't about perfection. It's about refusing to stop completely. Remember, too, that habits thrive on clarity. The more specific you are, the stronger your routine becomes. Don't just say, I'll work out tomorrow. Say, I'll do a 20-minute workout at 7 a.m. in the living room. Clarity removes decision fatigue, which is often what kills consistency. When you already know exactly what to do and when to do it, you don't waste precious mental energy deciding, you simply act. And finally, keep track of what you do. A journal, a habit tracker, or even a simple checklist can become your accountability partner. Each checkmark, each recorded action is a small victory, proof that you're honoring your promise to yourself. Over time, those small victories add up, and they change how you see yourself. You stop being someone who wants to be consistent and become someone who is consistent, because that's the real goal here. Not to rely on bursts of inspiration that come and go, but to build habits and routines so steady they hold you up when your motivation fails. That's how you force yourself to be consistent. Not through willpower alone, but through habits that are stronger than your weakest days. And when you build your life around those habits, you create something unbreakable, something that lasts. If we truly want to force ourselves to be consistent, there's another truth we have to face. It will never always feel good. And that's exactly why so many people give up before they even begin to see results. Because discomfort isn't just part of the process, it is the process. It's the space where real growth happens, where we leave behind who we were and start becoming who we're meant to be. Yet most people spend their lives running from it, trying to negotiate with it, or waiting for it to disappear. The ones who change their lives learn to do the opposite. They step closer to discomfort. They make it their training ground. We live in a world that celebrates comfort, where every inconvenience can be avoided, outsourced, or ignored. But comfort, when it becomes your default, quietly becomes your cage. It keeps you exactly where you are, promising ease while stealing progress. Consistency, by its very nature, is an act of rebellion against that. It's choosing to do what's necessary, not just what's pleasant. And in doing so, it builds something inside you that comfort never can: resilience. The moments you force yourself to keep going when your body is tired, when your mind is scattered, or when your heart feels heavy, those moments are priceless. Because that's when you prove to yourself that your actions are bigger than your moods. It's in those moments when you want nothing more than to quit that you lay the strongest bricks in the foundation of your discipline. And the next time you're tested, those bricks hold you up. Discomfort doesn't have to mean pain, but it will often mean boredom, repetition, doubt, and even fear. Even fear. You'll question whether what you're doing is worth it. You'll wonder why you bother at all when progress feels invisible. And in those moments, it's easy to think that discomfort is a signal to stop. But it isn't. It's a sign you're moving beyond what's familiar, and that is exactly where transformation lives. Think of it like building physical strength. No one becomes stronger by lifting the same light weight forever. Growth happens when you add resistance, when your muscles are forced to adapt to stress. Your mind works the same way. Consistency forces your mind to push through that stress again and again until what once felt impossible starts to feel routine. And what you'll find is that discomfort becomes less frightening over time. You start to see it not as an enemy, but as a sign you're on the right path. The days when it feels hardest to stay consistent often become the most important days of all. Because if you can show up then, when every part of you wants to retreat, you prove to yourself that you're stronger than your excuses, and that knowledge becomes part of who you are. It's not about punishing yourself or turning every day into a battle. It's about recognizing that growth always carries a price, and that price is often temporary discomfort. The irony is that while running from discomfort feels easier in the moment, it costs so much more in the long run. Missed opportunities, unrealized potential, and the quiet regret of knowing you could have done more. When you embrace discomfort as part of the process, you start to value the struggle itself. You see the days you didn't feel like showing up but did anyway as badges of honor, not burdens. And each of those days builds momentum. They remind you that feelings are temporary, but the results of discipline can last a lifetime. And yes, you will fail sometimes. You will miss days, make mistakes, and fall short of your own standards. But even in those moments, if you keep going, you're building something powerful. A mindset that refuses to surrender to temporary feelings. You learn to recover faster, to forgive yourself without lowering your expectations, and to return to your routine without drama. That ability to keep moving even after setbacks is what truly makes consistency unbreakable. The people who achieve remarkable things aren't the ones who never feel doubt or never face hardship. They're the ones who choose, again and again, to move forward in spite of it. Because they understand that discomfort is a teacher, revealing where they still need to grow, where their habits need to be stronger, and where their commitment can be deepened. And over time, something incredible happens. You stop fearing discomfort. You even start to look for it. Because you know that every time you step into it, you're stepping closer to the life you truly want. It becomes less about forcing yourself and more about proving to yourself over and over that your future matters more than your comfort in this moment. So when you feel resistance, boredom, fatigue, or fear, don't turn away. Recognize it for what it is, a sign you're on the edge of growth. And remember that forcing yourself to be consistent isn't about loving every step of the journey. It's about showing up even when you don't. Because the real power isn't in what you do when it feels easy, but in what you choose to do when it doesn't. One of the most overlooked parts of forcing yourself to be consistent is what happens after you've shown up. The part where you take a moment to track, reflect, and adjust. Because consistency without awareness can become blind repetition. And blind repetition can keep you busy without ever making you better. It's not just about doing the work day after day. It's about making sure the work you do keeps moving you closer to your goals, not just keeping you in motion. And that's why this step matters so much. It turns raw discipline into meaningful progress. Think about it like this. If you never stop to look at where you've been, you might keep walking in circles. But when you pause to reflect, you begin to see patterns, what's working, what isn't, where you waste time and where you're gaining real ground. That awareness gives you power because it lets you correct course before you drift too far from your vision. Without it, even the strongest discipline can lose direction. It starts with tracking, and this doesn't have to be complicated. It could be as simple as a notebook where you write what you did each day, how it felt, and what you learned. It could be a digital app that logs your workouts, your writing word count, your study hours, whatever goal you're working toward. What matters isn't perfection, but honesty. When you write it down, you see your habits in black and white. You can no longer pretend you're consistent if the page stays empty. And you can no longer ignore your victories either because they're there, recorded, reminding you of how far you've come. Then comes reflection. At the end of each week, or even each day, take a few minutes to look back. Ask yourself not just did I do it, but how did it go? What felt easy? What felt hard? What can I do better next time? This isn't about judgment. It's about curiosity. When you look at your effort with an open mind instead of criticism, you turn every experience into data you can use to improve. You start to see that even your off days teach you something valuable about what triggers distraction, about how your energy changes, about what supports you need to stay on track. And then you adjust, because no plan survives life unchanged. Circumstances shift. What worked last month might stop working now. The mistake so many people make is trying to force themselves to keep the same routine, even when it no longer fits. Real consistency isn't stubbornness, it's adaptability. It's the ability to see when your system needs tweaking and to make those changes without guilt or drama. Maybe that means moving your workouts to the morning because evenings have become too unpredictable. Maybe it means shortening your writing sessions, but adding an extra one each week. What matters is that you keep the promise alive, even if the method evolves. Tracking, reflecting, and adjusting create a feedback loop that keeps your efforts alive and growing. Instead of burning out or getting stuck, you keep discovering better ways to show up. And over time, this process does something incredible. It shifts your identity. You stop being someone who tries to be consistent and become someone who is consistent, because you're no longer just reacting to life. You're actively shaping it one thoughtful choice at a time. Another powerful part of this process is celebrating progress.